Well, thanks for joining us for tonight's webinar, Tips and Tricks for Curing the Back to School Blues. I'm Greg Berry, Director of Communications in the Office of Alumni Affairs. Since this is a virtual event, please excuse any technical issues that may pop up. If you have issues with video or audio, click the reconnect button on your screen to get back to the webinar right away. And a quick note, this webinar is being recorded. We'll have a replay available on our website starting tomorrow. Also, if you have a question, please drop it in the chat. We'll have time for Q&A before we end. Tonight, we're excited to welcome 3 educators from the Birmingham area. First is Jamie Giangrosso. Jamie is the Regional MTSS Implementation Coach for the Alabama State Department of Education and a 4-time graduate of the UAB School of Education. She got her bachelor's degree in 2002, earned her Master of Arts in Education in 2006, her EDS in Physical Education in 2008, and a second Master of Arts in Education in 2014. Next is Brittany Newbold. Brittany is an assistant principal at Moody Middle School. She is a graduate of Troy University and the University of West Alabama. She also holds a certificate from the University of Alabama. And last but not least is Josh Winslet. Josh is the Mental Health Services Coordinator for St. Clair County Schools. In 2019, Josh earned his bachelor's degree in social work from the UAB College of Arts and Sciences. At this time, I would formally like to welcome tonight's panel to the webinar and turn things over to you guys. Thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your busy schedules.
Absolutely. Thanks, Greg. So I'll start because I feel like I got the other 2 into this. Thankfully, they decided to help join me with this. So I'm Jamie Giangrosso. As he said, I am currently in a new position that I just took on July 1st as an MTSS regional coach for the Alabama State Department of Education. Before then, I was the principal at Moody Middle School, assistant principal at Moody Elementary, and a PE teacher for many years before that in Charlesville City Schools. So the basis behind this webinar is we just wanted to kind of just give a how can we help you have the best year ever? Like how to go back to school, some just helpful hints, especially for new parents of elementary age children that are coming back to school, but also these hints can be used K-12, even in college. And I will turn it over and let Brittany, if you want to introduce yourself for a minute.
Hi, I'm Brittany Newbold. Up until about a month ago, Jamie was my principal. And so this really is just our version of the back to school pep talk. We feel like everybody could use this. The students that we service are 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And these tips are great for kindergarten parents, but they're also great for our age group. They're great for those high school age parents. And they're just great if you just need a refresher or a reminder of what that back to school season entails. All right, Josh, I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Josh Winslet. I am the mental health liaison for St. Clair County Schools, and coming from a parent that has a child that has adverse background, she's adopted, knowing how to transition back to school is a really important thing to our life. So I think it's also helpful to help other families in learning a little bit about how to get back to school and how to help your child's emotional needs.
So we're going to continue on through these slides. And like Greg said, anytime you have a question, please feel free to put it in the box. If we don't get to it right away, if we don't see it, we will definitely have some time for Q&A after. And just kind of a disclaimer, this is just kind of a general overview on just schools, but each system and each school in its own system has their own policies and procedures. So we're just kind of giving a general overlook, but also encourage you to reach out to your school and your school system if you have more specific questions that might be related directly to where your children go to school. So we're going to continue on. And this next one, again, is kind of introduction of us. It also has our Twitter handles because we do try to put a great deal of education information on Twitter. Just great pieces of any kind of information related to education. So if you are on Twitter, we would love for you to give us a follow so you can continue to gather information. And anything that you see that you think would be helpful to us as well, please tag us along. So our goals today, just to kind of give you some helpful hints and suggestions. Obviously, we want you to, be prepared as best that you can be going back to school. And especially if you're a parent of a kindergartner or pre-K, it's a little scarier time than those of us. I have a senior, so that brings its scariness along as it is. Wanting to keep her home instead of sending her to her senior year. And I also have an 8th grader. So living in the secondary world now, but I remember elementary years very well. And my 2 children have polar opposite personalities. So as a mama, just to kind of, can give some helpful hints towards that. And we, of course, want to answer any questions you have to the best of our ability. And we want you to have the best school year ever. That's all of us as educators. That's all we want. We want kids and families to be successful in all that they do, especially through school. So the first thing we'll talk about is prepping for the school year and routines, because if you have a little one, you know that routines are key to everything. And I know Josh can probably go more on the social, emotional research on this about practicing routines and how well it does help a child especially if they have anxiety or anxious or anything starting new. We all get a little bit anxious of all of that. So that's what we'll start with. And I am one, I pack slides. So I'm sorry for the little print. When you see me put glasses on and pull glasses off, that's just because I can't read my own typing, I guess. But, and Brittany and Josh, you guys jump in whenever. But talking about prepping, school starts next week for a lot of people. Well, I think some even came back today. I think East Alabama, some school systems were actually back today. So, maybe too late to start that easing into routine, but for those in a lot around our area, schools start back next week. So kind of easing into that, here we go. And I know as a mom, it's hard to tear that away of, let them sleep every minute of summer that they can, to, we got to get on routine. We got to get on a schedule. And it's really going to depend on your child. They might jump right into routine and be fine. And some of them might need this week. So, and bedtime and sleep is so important. Usually the Academy of Pediatrics, they have a great sleep schedule out, and I should have attached it in here, but your little one's going to need 9, 10, 11 hours sleep at night. And when you think about school and after school activities and supper and showers and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to follow up with that. But if you've ever had a child that's overtired, then sending that child to school with possibly 29 other overtired children makes it a very long school day.
And I think that's also really important for parents, because even though parents, may have been getting up all summer and going to work and doing those things, re-adding that child back into your routine of now we've both got to get up and both got to get out. That's a process. And so keeping that in mind is important too.
Yes.
And if I may add, the routine,
Please.
I think it stems past even sleeping in or waking up at a certain time. For our family personally, the week before school starts back, we even go back to our screen rules that we have during the school year, that screens are off at a certain time. That way they're already mentally prepared of what the next week is going to look like, not just with waking up and go to sleep, but knowing how to handle when screens should be turned off. That way, when the next week starts, it's not like just culture shock for them and they're not staying up because their brain is wired to watch screens. That's one thing, at least with us, has been really helpful this week.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And, I was always the prepper of, you go ahead and decide what you're going to wear the next day or even by the week, and have all of that out, and go ahead and decide what you're going to have for breakfast, what you're going to have for lunch. Are they going to eat in the lunchroom? Are they not going to eat in the lunch? I actually had that conversation with my kids today. Like, are you going to eat breakfast at school? Or are you going to eat breakfast at home? And go ahead and have everything prepped the best that you can, because as I have on there, allow plenty of time for the unexpected in the mornings. somebody's going to spill a milk or spill a coffee or can't find the right shoe or hair won't fix or something like that. We all know that that happens to even adults getting ready for work. And then especially if there's multiple kids at home and you're trying to get everybody ready and out the door, having as much prepped and ready to go is a huge step. And just talk to them about what to expect. Tell them, okay, this is when you're going to get up in the morning, and these are the things I need you to get done. And some kids work best with a to-do list, a checklist. And I know that sounds kind of crazy and extra work on a parent's, but there's all kinds of stuff on Pinterest. You can actually just print out, laminate, give them a white erase marker. That's a teacher trick right there. Print it out, laminate it, and give them a white marker or whiteboard marker. And then that way they know what all is expected of them in the morning before they head to school. And it really helps with children starting a new school. And it just, go ahead and plan your route. And any of you that have done an elementary car line, just go ahead and give yourself some extra time that first week of school. I have worked car line or bus line my entire education career. I've been in one or the other, and I've been in both. And it's, elementary car line that first week is absolutely crazy. So allow for that extra time, and being prepped just is very, very, very helpful. And know what's coming that week. Is it picture day? Because that fall picture day is pretty early in the school year. And will they have to stay after school? Is there something coming up? Do they need to change the clothes for that? Does the baseball equipment need to be ready, or football equipment, or whatever? Having just everything together ready to go is very beneficial. And the biggest thing is mindset, in my opinion, because and hey, I've done it. I'm a mama. We got to go and start yelling and being like, come on, we're late. Get in the car. I don't care if your shoes aren't tied. Like, just get in the car, get in the car, get in the car. I'm setting myself up for a bad day. I'm setting my kids up for a bad day. And it's so hard. Oh my goodness, it's so hard. I know it's hard. It's hard just getting me out of the house sometimes, much less with kids. So doing your best just to have that cool, calm, positive morning, having that positive mindset of it's going to be a great day. And I know a lot of families have their own little special saying when their little one either gets on the bus in the morning or gets out of the car and car line. Go be a leader. Have a great day. I can't wait to see you this afternoon. Something like that, just to kind of set the tone for the day, to give them that positive mindset. And another thing is be consistent. Like, kids just strive with routines. And if they know what to expect daily on a school morning, it's just very, very helpful but of course, are things going to pop up? Absolutely. Are you going to be at a travel baseball game till 11 o'clock at night and then have to get up for school the next morning? In my world, yes. So things are going to pop up, but as consistent as you can be, just really makes a difference with that positive mindset. Those two are kind of my biggest ones that I see are most beneficial. You guys got anything to add to that as well?
I think that mindset is definitely a big one. I've got a first grader, and he operates on his own time, and the world is on his time, and everybody's going to move on his time. And so I know that that's really hard for me, because we are rushing and we are trying to get everything done. And just remembering that that tone and that attitude and whatever you say to them before they walk out that door is what they're going to take with them the rest of the day. And they're going to take it out on whoever they need to. So we've got to remember that we're that inner voice that they hear constantly.
With both of those, I've kind of connected those together with the positive mindset to make sure my children start in a more upbeat manner, knowing my child. So one of my children can wake up and walk out the door right when I wake him up. But the other two, I have to stagger starts with one wakes up an hour before the last one, and the next one wakes up 30 minutes. That way, none of them argue in the morning. And I know that sounds like overkill, but because I know my children, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that they're not starting off on the bad foot, with a negative mindset. And I've noticed that in doing that, I'm able to rotate them with when they're doing clothes, teeth, and that way, knowing each one, how long it takes them to get ready, it's helped us out a lot. For the being consistent part, I would love to take my children to school the first day in car riders or walk them in. But specific to my daughter, she has to know what's ahead. So the safety of knowing allows her to be able to have a lot of emotional control and to be able to handle the first day easier, because she cries no matter what. But that it's easier if she knows. And if we start off doing that morning care, even though I want to drop her off, I'm starting her off that first day the way we're going to do the entire year. That way we're consistent from the beginning to the end, and she knows what's ahead, because there's always safety and comfort in knowing what's going to happen.
And I forgot to mention about doing a practice run. There's nothing wrong with driving through Carline before school starts.
No.
Don't drop them off. The school will call you and say, hey, we don't have kids yet. But there's nothing wrong with that, with going to the bus stop and saying, okay, it's 7:07. This is when we would be at the bus stop and the school bus would pick you up and things like that. And always know too, and I'm just going to talk on behalf of the bus drivers, they are some of my favorite people. I love some bus drivers. Expect some inconsistency, as bad as we say it, those first couple of weeks, because some stops may take longer than others. They may need to add a stop. They can take away a stop, things like that. And the schools will communicate, but just be prepared. Even though they may tell you 7:07, I'll be at that stop. It could very well be 7:17. It could be 7 in the morning. We always, as administrators, say, allow 10, 15 minutes on either side before you panic. And that's with drop off too. So if you're at the bus stop and they're supposed to get off at 3:40 and it's 3:50 and they're still not there, give it about 15 minutes. And then of course, call the school, because we had walkie talkies. We could call the bus driver. Hey, because believe it or not, we've had kids fall asleep on the bus, things like that happen. So reach out to your school if you are concerned, but just remember with buses, just like Carline, that first week is a little bit different than the rest of the year. So next, and you probably already have this done, but just a reminder, because we see it pop up. I see it on Facebook a lot in the What's Happening groups of why do they need this documentation every year? Well, it's not your schools that require it. It is state requirement and things like that. But just make sure you have all your paperwork complete. There's nothing worse than trying to find a phone number for a parent and the parent forgot to put it in their registration, or email, because teachers use a lot of, and make sure your email's correct. We schools send a lot of communication through email. Most of them have like some sort of what word am I looking for? Program. It goes out all together to like all the parents of fourth graders or all the parents of the school. And if you don't have your correct email in, obviously you're not going to get that communication. And then when you have lack of communication, that's where frustration really starts. So just check your, and a lot of schools, a lot of teachers will send home paper too. So you do your registration online through Power School, but a lot of teachers also will send home paper packets, and just make sure that, because they like to keep their own binder of things, most of them. So just make sure that you have correct and updated information. And if you change your email address, or you change your phone number, or you change when you move, just make sure that you are communicating that with the school, because a lot of good information, all information comes out mostly through email. Or some schools have an app, some schools use text, things like that. And if it's just, if it's not your correct information, you're not going to get it. And we don't want anybody to miss communication because just somebody forgot. And I wouldn't remember to do that either. If I changed phone numbers, I wouldn't think, I need to call the school. But this is just us reminding you, remember to let the school know if any of your contact information changes. And if your child takes medication, or if your child will have to take medication at some point in time during the year, a lot of people think they can just come and run it and take it and be like, here, they need this every 4 hours. That's not how it works. In case you're just new to that, like there is an official form that the school nurse will have to give you, and that form goes to your doctor, and the doctor has to fill it out. And then you have to take a brand new prescription medicine and meet with the nurse, and the nurse will go through everything with you. So just kind of keep that in mind if your child does take medicine, or if something comes up in the middle of the year and they would need medication during the school day. And you may have seen it, and I have seen it a lot in the past couple of years, about a note to the teacher. And it could be something simple as handle with care. That's kind of been the biggest note that I have seen. But if you had a rough night or you had a rough morning, because I know we've had some students where their pet has passed away and we didn't know. We just would have a child come in and be all upset, and then we would reach out to the parent and the parent would let us know. But just, and if it's something you don't want to get into, just a little note of, hey, we've had some things go on, just maybe may need a little extra love today, or let me know if you need me throughout the day. And that way the teacher can know to give you a call if need be, or just that simple handle with care. And then the teacher knows immediately, okay, something's going on. It's not my business, but that one may just need some extra love today. And then there's counselors, school counselors at every school, and they will, of course, they check their email daily. If you need to just reach out to the counselor. And with school supplies too, beginning of the year, school supplies, if anybody needs help with school supplies, reach out to your school. Many schools partner with several nonprofits that love to give donations to schools and can help you get those school supplies. And some teachers like them to be labeled. Some teachers don't like them to be labeled. So I'll tell you, follow the directions of your teacher. Which I felt like I've said many times in my life to little ones. But yes, follow directions of your teacher there. But just please please communicate with the school. Keep them up to date on things, because as a teacher, and I taught literally 1,000 a day, literally, and being a PE teacher, they become our personal kids, and we love them. And there's some that now that I taught that are now married with their own children, and I still just see them as 5 years old, and I still love them. So we do care, and we want to know if there's anything that we can do to help, even if they didn't get much sleep last night because they weren't feeling well. Just let us know. Y'all have anything to add to that?
I think too, especially even with younger ones, I think it's important to make sure that even with kindergarten or first grade, that you're teaching your student your phone number. And if they have like allergies or anything like that, yes, fill out that paperwork and make sure that you do all of that and update that information. But also make sure that your student knows my mom's phone number is whatever, or, hey, I'm allergic to milk, or I'm allergic, just because it provides us another level of communication and another way to help us make sure that we're doing everything we can for your child.
One thing I do want to let everybody know is that if you tell us something, we're not going to tell anybody else. So if there's been something that's happened outside of the school setting, but you're scared to tell us because you don't want people to know, we care for your babies, and we're not going to tell because we care for them. But even if that wasn't true, state law forbids us from speaking to anyone about any of the concerns you may have outside of those that are in direct, immediate care for your child. So other than the teacher and the admins and the counselors that are working to take care of your child, if there's something confidential that you're scared to let us know, but we need to know, it's going to stay with us. And it's just going, even if we have to tell others around, all we will say is, hey, this child we need to handle with care. We will not tell them the information that you've told us, just that they need to take care of that child with a special interest. So no, if you want to tell your school something, but you're scared to, they're professionals, and they also are professionals that love your baby that are going to make sure that things stay confidential.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, because I forget that. I mean, I don't forget, I don't forget the law, but I do forget to mention that because that is a worry. You don't want, if I'm going to tell this person, everybody's going to know my business, but that's definitely not the truth. So this was just kind of a list of, I was trying to think of being a kindergarten teacher and all the things that I would love for a kindergartner to come in with, but then I was like, ooh, I would love for some middle school and high school kids to come in with this too. And number one on my list, be kind. Just teach your child to be kind. Nothing tops being kind. I mean, and I know you've seen like quotes around of, you don't know what anybody's dealing with. Or you might be the only smile so-and-so sees today, things like that. Nothing tops being kind. And that's one thing that we teach in schools. I mean, I know our rules at our school were to be respectful and be responsible. And of course, being kind always fit under being respectful, but having that backup at home of just be kind. Be kind can just about fix anything. If you're sending in an elaborate lunch, make sure that they know how to fix it, because I've worked in the lunchroom with kindergartners before of helping with lunches, and they have like I'm making this up, but make your own sushi. I mean, just, just these elaborate lunches, and they come and bring it to you and they're like, can you help me with my lunch? And I'm like, you only have 20 minutes. What are we going to do? So just to make sure that they know, and snack time, sending in a fancy snack, just make sure that they can feed themselves, and not just feed themselves, but open those containers, know how to assemble something if there is something to assemble. We always say pinch and pull with chips. That seems to be a big thing. And with milk cartons, push it in, pull it out, like things like that. And I know you can't really buy milk cartons to practice at home, and some have gone to a screw top in lunchrooms, but just if you could make sure they know how to open everything that is being sent with them. And I didn't think about that as a parent at first. And then when I find myself with kindergarten in a lunchroom, I'm like, oh my goodness, please send something. Because even those Lunchables, if you work on just opening Lunchables, sometimes those are even hard to open, and ketchup packets and the pizza sauce packets and all that kind of stuff. Just practice that at home if you are able to. And a zip, snap, button, and tie shoes. Tie shoes takes a little bit. My role as a mama, I was the mean mom. My kids couldn't have tied shoes until they could tie them themselves. I made them wear Velcro until they could tie their own shoes, because I tied 1 million shoes a day. I didn't want to do it at home too. So, and that might take some time to practice, but zipping up their zipper when they go to the restroom, snapping, because some blue jeans have the snap or the button or things like that. Just making sure that they can kind of dress themselves, because it's hard when, a teacher has 20 something kids and everybody's coming out of the restroom at one time and you're snapping and all this kind of stuff, or putting their jacket on, like Ralphie, or they get stuck and things like that. Just making sure that they can dress themselves all right. And restroom etiquette, I say that because when a 5-year-old's been at home his or her whole life, they don't care what restroom etiquette is at their house. But then now they're sharing a restroom with others. And, some of them like to just open the door on somebody, or, just that kind of thing. So just talking about that process. And I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but when you've been in a school with kindergarten, I think you've seen and heard it all. And then every year I'm like, well, that's a new one.
That's also a big deal for middle schoolers, because that etiquette is still a big deal.
You are correct. You are correct. I didn't think about that, but yes, you are correct. I mean, they just might need that. Hey, when you go into the restroom in school, just go in there, shut the door, lock the door, do your business, get out, wash your hands. Oh, please tell them to wash.
Please wash your hands.
And having just some patience. A lot of kids, and this is a funny story from a long, long time ago, but I had a child take off their shoes and throw them at me because I wouldn't give them food right then. And their mama said that I would give them whatever they wanted whenever they wanted it. And she was hungry. I think we'd reached hangry state at that point, and literally took her shoes off and threw them at me because her mama said that I would do whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. So just having a talk of patience and reminding them that they're not the only kid in the class, that there are other kids in the class, and you might, have to take turns. You might have to share. I have sharing up there. The same thing, like especially at recess or PE when they're using equipment and they want to, they want to play with something by themselves and don't want to share. Just having that talk and how to compromise I know we've had a lot of talks, and it usually comes with recess or PE of, well, they always want me to play their game and they don't ever want to play my game. Just, compromise. Compromise is a hard concept, even for adults. So just having that talk with little ones of, hey, to be a good friend, to have friends, you have to be a friend. And sometimes you have to do what this person wants. And sometimes you have to do, and they'll do what you want, things like that. Listening and following directions. And I say that that's kind of common sense, I know, but multi-step directions, because it might be go hang your backpack up, go unpack, take your jacket off, and then go sit down and open, a book or a Chromebook or, something like that. So having them not tune out the teacher of go hang my backpack up, that's it. and then they didn't hear the rest of the directions. But just kind of even practicing that at home, some of multi-step directions, because I think a lot of the problem is with little ones. A lot of times they just tune the teacher. They heard one thing and they're out. And of course, that is a K-12 issue too, and probably college. But just following those multi-step directions and being open to new friends, especially, well, this has been my friend forever. I don't, they're not in my class anymore, so I don't have any friends. Be open to making new friends. And that might take talking about it. It might be like going to events. I know in or around our area, lots of kids are in lots of park ball, rec ball, these kinds of things. And they are getting exposed to many people to become friends with, but some kids aren't. And it might be, taking your child on play dates or going to just a public park or a library to a group just to learn how to make some new friends. That's a skill. Learning how to make friends is a skill. And it has to be taught. And it's not something that, comes natural to some kids. Some kids, I have one, he can talk to anybody. I have one that doesn't want to talk to anybody. So it is a skill. And this is funny, but it's true. Speaking, language, tone, and volume. Sometimes you want to be like, hey, I'm standing right in front of you. You don't have to scream. And we talk about inside voice and outside voice, and your teachers will, have things like that. And like tone, sarcasm is strong nowadays. Through K-12, just sarcasm is a big thing. And just to remind them that, when speaking to an adult at school, the tone that they use is a big deal as well. And language, everybody has a different interpretation of what language is fine to use at home. But sometimes they might need the talk of language at school could be different than language at home, just to kind of keep them from getting in and out of trouble. And like slang for some things, like, they might need to be reminded of, may I use the restroom, instead of going, hey, I need a TT, because I had that said to me when I was little too, of just, better ways to have conversations at school and to problem solve. That's another thing. And this is hard as a parent. A lot of people want to just jump in and do everything for their child, but give them that, we call it productive struggle as educators. So let them struggle a little bit and figure out if they can figure out a solution to their problem. But they also need to know, hey, I need to get an adult involved. And teachers are really good about doing this too. If this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, you need to get a teacher. But just, so-and-so won't be my friend. Well, how do you know? Well, they keep running away from me. Well, are they playing tag? Like, things like that, problem solving, and how to handle their emotions. And I will let Josh take over on this. But a lot of times they just don't know how to control their emotions. And again, in my opinion, a lot of that's natural, but a lot of that can be taught as well. Josh, you want to take over there?
Sure. So a lot of times children will act out in a certain way because they are trying to verbalize a need. We tell children in infancy, yes, constantly, simply for them crying. Well, as they grow older, they should learn how to verbalize what they're saying. And something I often say to my children is use your words. My middle child is really bad about acting out in emotion. So I have to turn around and then say, I need you to verbalize it, speak. And it's okay to be angry, but we have to know what to do with that. Let's talk through it. At their young age, sometimes they're more apt to show their emotions through behavior instead of vocally saying it. And so teaching them that when they do need something, who is their go-to person? Like if an emotion is too hard to handle, teaching them now before they start school, who do you go to instead of acting out? And I would even, on the heels of that, something I would like to add to something they need to know is on the onset, parents, it would be very good if y'all would to show them what we call body touch boundaries. That's a hard conversation. We think it is, but some families are very touchy. Like our family is very, very huggy at home. We just hug. It's what we like to do. That's appropriate in our house, but it's not appropriate to somebody else's family if we walk up and start hugging them. And I've noticed that especially at younger ages, very often the emotions begin to rise simply because somebody's touched somebody, even if it was innocent, and they're not necessarily meaning for it to be harmful, but because they touched, the other person gets angry and then there's a fight. So knowing those body touch boundaries, don't touch somebody if they don't want to, and we never touch somebody where the bathing suit covers. Those kind of conversations can seem difficult, but that's something they need to know going into the school year, just to make sure that they're being very aware of what to and not do in the classroom. For those emotions, my kids don't necessarily act like they should at home with their emotions, but that's a comfortable place. At school, they really do need to know, if they're feeling frustrated, how to go to tell their teacher that they need a break before it gets any worse. And so that's why I'm emphasizing that go-to person when they're feeling themselves getting too up there, because they need to know who they can go to find that release from their emotions.
That's great. I agree. Okay, so next, and I kind of touched on communication already, but one of the best things is to be involved, and many people work many jobs. My husband and I were actually just talking about this before I jumped on here, about how many teachers have second jobs. And so it is kind of hard to be involved in school, especially if you're working a lot or have multiple children in multiple schools. But just kind of being in the know, attend events if you're able to. Open house night was always a big thing for us, because the kids would show parents what they were doing in school, and they were proud of that work. And then that kind of brings my teachers proud, my parents are proud, and bring it together to know that this is why I'm in school. This is why I need to do the things that I'm doing. And if and we'll talk about it again in just a little bit, but if there is a question, always ask the child first. And then if you have a question for the teacher, all teachers are going to say, send me an email. My suggestion, my one thought with email, though, as an administrator, was please be respectful of time. And I would do it too. I would forget to schedule a send or whatever, and I would email one of my kids' teachers at 8:30 at night. And I sometimes I would start at please do not answer this tonight. I'm just sending it before I forget, because I tell people all the time, I have Dory brain. So it can be there and it can be gone in 15 seconds. So I might send an email at night, but I also try to be very courteous about it. And I don't expect a reply if I'm sending an email at 8:30 at night. We always, one of our things that we always said as administrators was give a 24-hour rule. Mm-hmm. And that's just because it gives the teacher, they might be off, they might be sick, they might have a sick one at home. They might have after school activities with their own kids and things like that. So we try to say, give a 24-hour time frame after you email the teacher before you expect a reply. Now, some teachers will email you back at 9:00. And I've had some of my kids' teachers do that. And I would be like, I promise I do not expect a reply. I'm just trying to email before I forget. Or I would try to do the schedule send. But just be respectful of their time too, because their mamas, their daddies, their aunts, uncles, grandparents, mm-hmm. and they're living a life just like, a typical parent is, while they're also trying to raise possibly 30 babies in their classroom as well. So just be respectful of that. And a lot of times, if you read the information that comes out from the school, a lot of questions will be answered as far as like school-wide things. And like I said, there's many platforms. I know we use multiple social media sites. We use email, we use text, we use an app. Mm-hmm. So we try to get, and some parents still wouldn't get it. And that's completely understandable, because some grandparents are in communication with the school and they just don't, do technology well, and that's okay. So they would prefer paper copy, and that would be something to communicate with the school or with the teacher of, will you send me information in paper? And mm-hmm. they would be happy to do so, because it can be as simple as printing off the email that went to everybody and sending that home with your child. But just, reading that information that lets you know what's coming up, so you're kind of best prepared to. I put on here, understand code of conduct and protocols. So code of conduct, when you register your child, you go ahead and agree to the code of conduct, whether you read it or not. It's a little check mark on there. And then you wonder why your child got sent home for a dress code violation, called about dress code. So just, before you get angry or get upset of the school called and this has happened, you might want to read that code of conduct and know the protocols of, if this happens, then this happens and things like that. And it should all be in your code of conduct, which should be on school's website, like your school system's website. And some schools may have it as well, but definitely whatever school system your school is a part of should have it linked somewhere. And if you don't see it, email someone. They will for sure get it out to you. And a lot of times as your child gets older, and I do this with secondary kids, when I get their weekly agenda from their teacher, I, share it with my children of, hey, you have a math test on Thursday, or you have, something like that going on, and talk about the agenda ahead of time with your child so they know what's going on as well. And if it takes printing it, I know when they were little, I used to print it and put it on my fridge. And now that they're older, we screenshot it, we text it, we talk about it like that. But that way you can very easily stay in the know as well. Power School makes it real easy to review grades and assignments. And now Brittany will tell on me here, I am Power School overload with my children. I get the alerts that pop, and some of you may be like me. That alert pops up on your phone and you could be in mid conversation. You're like, hang on. And you're like, you got to see on a test today. We're going to talk about that when we get home. But don't wait for the teacher to contact you of, hey, your child is struggling in my class. If you should know that if you are, checking the grades and assignments. I know my kids' teachers are great about, I know what assignments are coming up and I know what their grades are. And if you're like me and you check it multiple times a day, or if you at least just check it weekly, that way you can stay on top of things with your child at home and keep those zeros from popping in the grade book. And go over the work that does come home. When they get older, a lot of work doesn't come home because I miss that too. I miss that as a mom of going, well, what did you miss on this? And then I go, I don't know. But little ones, they do get work that comes home, and going over it with them. And I'm not saying reteach everything at home, but allowing some practice time or have a good space for homework and things like that. That just also keeps you on the know to know if a problem is arising. Maybe they're just not getting this concept, or, maybe the opposite, and they're learning everything so quickly they're getting bored in class. So just to have that pulse on your child's education. You guys got stuff to add to that one?
I think the big thing with staying in the loop and kind of staying in the know is that we all know that when you ask your child when they come home from school, how was your day? What did you do today? The customary answer is nothing, or it was okay. And so staying in that loop also helps to increase that communication, because then you can say, oh, well, tell me about this math test, or tell me about, what you learned about in English today, or whatever the case may be. And you've got that agenda and that communication piece there as a way to increase that conversation and ask those questions.
With being involved, I know kids can act like they're embarrassed of their children, but especially elementary school kids really do want you to be involved. They can act like they don't, but they want you there, and they notice when you're not. During certain events, when like you all go in the lunchroom, you sit down and eat, you'll notice some children may not have an adult with them, and you can see the emotional distress on the child's face. So I encourage you to be as involved as you can be, because the older they get, the less they're going to think you're cool. As having a now junior high student that doesn't want me to go on a Washington field trip, I'm glad I was involved with him as much as I could have been until he got there, because he knows I'm there for him. It's built in a sense of safety. For that emotional regulation, the more you're involved, the more emotionally regulated your child's going to be, because they know they're safe with you, because you're going to be there when they need them to be. Being involved. And I'd encourage you also, for the elementary school students, if you see children that don't have somebody there involved with them, invite them to your table with you, because it will mean the world to them to have an adult showing them attention.
and this it falls right into relationships. So we want the kids to see us all as a team. It's not school against home, because that will never work. It's the school, the family, and the community all together that makes school successful. You know, if you're looking for a place to buy a house, one of the biggest things is, well, how are the schools? I mean, and how are the, you know, what's the connection with the schools and community and things like that? So just think of it as we're all on one team, and that's what we want. Our goal as educators is for your child to be the very best person that your child can be. And we know that's your goal too as parents. So just like know the expectations for the school and use it at home. Don't be, well, I know your teacher said no to this, but it's fine. You know, things like that. Just, you know, not putting, pitting your child, you know, the teacher and the parent against each other, things like that. And if there is a problem that you have a problem with the teacher, address it privately. Please don't go to Facebook and bash your teachers. As I said before, your teachers are people too. And what your child came home and told you may be part truth, but it also may have a little bit of elaboration to it. You have to take that into consideration. So just addressing problems with your teacher privately or with your administrators privately and early. Don't let it just bubble up and then you have this just blow up of you're angry at everybody. And like I said earlier, we would talk about this, but the best chain of command when something happens that you might be confused about or you might be angry about, is talk to your student, then talk to the teacher. It could be a bus driver. It could be a coach. And again, give them that 24 hours if you know, that 24-hour window of getting back with you. And then if it's not resolved with the teacher, the bus driver, the coach, or things like that, then go to the administrators, the assistant principal, the principal, and give them a chance to get involved as well. And then if you're still angry with, you know, the situation or you don't feel like it's been resolved, and then contact the central office of the school system. But because sometimes the central office would get called and nobody even knows what happened because the child came home and said this, and it wasn't exactly, you know, just things can blow up when just a simple email or a phone call could happen. So please make sure you are communicating. And like I said, we're all a team, and we want the children to see us working as a team. And if you want to make an appointment for a conference, that's a great idea too. Like email the teacher, and it may be even a good thing. Just, hey, can I meet with you? You know, about anything, good, bad, ugly. We're here for that. We are here for the good, bad, and ugly. But just showing up sometimes, and then if there's already another appointment scheduled, and then that adds to the anger of so-and-so won't see me right now when somebody already had an appointment. And it's just schedule to make an appointment for a conference if need be. And like I said, with schoolwork, homework, sometimes homework comes home, just, you know, encouraging them through that as well. But I'm a former PE teacher, so I'm going to tell you, make sure you have time for play. Walking right in the door and be like, what do you got from homework? Get it out right now. Let's go. Let's, you know, all this kind of stuff. And if you have after school activities, that may be the only time you can get it done. But just make sure that they have time to relax when they come home from school, that they can, you know, decompress, talk about their day, because wellness matters so much. We want them in a happy place. We want them in a happy place all the time, but just, you know, always in that work mode is not good for adults or kids. You guys got anything to add to that?
I think you hit most of it. I think the biggest thing too is just make sure that you're still giving them a time to be a kid. And that kind of piggybacks on what you were talking about just then. Just make sure that they don't feel like they're inundated with school. Like, yes, it's important, and yes, we want them to focus, but we also want them to be a kid.
Yep.
And don't let one bad experience from a past situation make you biased towards the way you view a future situation. And also, if there is a student that there's an issue with, just know, even if you don't see that it has been a situation been rectified, doesn't mean it hasn't been handled. We just can't say what we've done because we protect everybody's privacy involved. And we want to make sure we take care of that.
Thank you, Josh. I forgot that again.
You're good.
And here's just some things that I put, and I won't go through all of these in detail. It was just some conversation starters. But like Brittany said earlier, they're going to tell you, what'd you do at school today? Nothing. My kids always said stuff. That was their famous word. What'd you do at school today? Stuff. What kind of stuff? School stuff. Thanks. But we just put this up here, and we know that it'll be on YouTube later. But and you can Google conversation starters, Pinterest, or whatever. But just like, and try to make it positive. What made you proud today? What did you do today that made you proud? What are your goals in school? What do you want to learn about? What was something that you learned today you want to learn more about? Things like that. Just having good conversations at the dinner table or on the way home from school and things like that. What is the funniest thing your teacher said today? You might want to write those down and then share them with your teacher, because I know I've said some crazy things as a teacher. And I would love to have heard those things back to me. And then just one
thing. May I
give
something to that last one?
Please.
I'm sorry. I just want to add, if you want an easy thing to think of, say what makes you sad, what made you glad, or what made you sad, what made you mad, and what made you glad. If you can remember those 3 words, you can solicit anything out of your child to know what made them sad that day, mad that day, and glad that day. So it's an easy way to just start a conversation. Sorry, just wanted to.
No, I'm glad.
No, that's a good one.
That's easy to remember. I had to get fancy. So we also just wanted to talk about attendance, because in the state of Alabama, the attendance issue is everywhere. It's with every school system. Coming back from COVID has been really hard to get kids to come back to school for multiple reasons. But we just wanted to put this graphic up here just to like remind you of school keeps going if your child misses a day of school. And now I am absolutely not telling you to send your child to school sick. Please do not. Please do not. I was in a classroom one time where one came with the stomach virus, and then at 2 a.m, I was like, oh, yeah. So they shared that stomach virus with me. But please don't send them to school sick. But we do want you to, like, if they're just like, I don't want to go to school today. Okay, sure, stay at home. I don't care. Just to see what the attendance does have an effect on their education. So just 2 days a month is 20 days a year. That's you think 2 days a month, no big deal. But then when you look at it as 20 days a year, you're like, oh my gosh. And then they'll miss 1 year of instruction by the time they hit graduation. That's mind blowing to me. And so we just wanted to encourage you, send those kids to school always. And I'm going kind of quick because I see it's already 7:54, but I wanted Josh to really hit on this, because a lot of problems from schools come from social media and come from phones, and it's getting younger and younger and younger. So I just put some of these things up here of things that I thought of, but I know Josh can really take over right here and talk about phones and social media and the whys and all of that. So Josh, I'm letting you have it.
So my dad asked me the other day, why are y'all so strict on phones? I said, Dad, because first they can get on websites they shouldn't get on, and then possibly exposing other children to images they shouldn't see. On TikTok and Instagram, we're seeing a higher usage of, or higher percentage of self-harm in 4th and 5th graders, because self-harm is being popularized on social media, not as something that we would look at as somebody who really wants to hurt themselves or take their own life, but it's being popularized as something to do. And so kids are coming into schools self-harming. I've seen a lot of kids taking unbecoming pictures, and I'm going to be really honest if I can right now. If you have a picture if your child has a picture on their phone of something they shouldn't, of anything underage, that phone is confiscated by law enforcement and then destroyed. So I'm only hammering on this because phones are very serious issues right now. It exposes children to things that are way above their age. I wouldn't ask my 6-year-old to carry a 200-pound bag because their body can't handle it. But then we give a child a phone with the ability to carry stuff way too heavy for their mind. And just like their physical body can't carry it, their mind can't carry the stuff they're getting on that phone. So between Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat, they're being exposed to stuff that if you're not watching it, your child is being taught a culture that you are unaware of and really being taken hold of and being trained from somebody outside of your home. When I say that the cell phones are one of the scariest things that we can hand a child ungoverned, it would frighten you to see some of the things that we see in schools being shown on cell phones. Not to mention, you can have a child take a picture of another child in an unbecoming way, then that child's emotional health is at stake because they're being made fun of. And so it's a constant circle of this battle with cell phones that we see. I know I sound like too heavy right now, but
it's the truth. He is telling the truth. A lot of discipline we see in schools go back to a cell phone.
Like
Exactly.
you could have an hour just on why to watch your kids.
You really could.
Yes.
Like,
Craig, you can put that down. But yes, and that's why I wanted, Josh to talk about it, because he sees it more than I see it. But I mean, and it's getting younger and younger and younger. And if you don't go through your child's phone, go through your child's phone.
Absolutely.
And you can pay monthly to have a subscription like with Bark or something or Go Guardian and be able to watch what your child watches, and it flags you. I get emails every time one of my children send my brother something mean, like, hey, you're ugly. Like I'll get a flagged email that says your child called somebody ugly, but I want to know what's going on their cell phone. So I govern it. My children get so mad at me, but they don't know that I'm protecting them right now.
So that was pretty much sums it up. And I just right here, if you need help, please don't feel like a failure. We need help with our own kids sometimes too.
Absolutely.
Reach out, ask if it's something like mental health related, reach out to the counselor. The counselor can get you resources. Reach out to the teacher, reach out to the administrator, ask for help. We would not want any child struggling. No one in a school wants anyone struggling. And don't let it just be like, it might get better. It might get better. Reach out, ask for help. And then just to kind of end with this with kids, and it was just something that, is a great thing to think about in the morning. This quote by Conan O'Brien: work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen. That's it. That's as simple as we can make it for school, those things. But I know we're like a minute away, but if anybody has any like pressing questions or anything, please feel free to ask.
Yes, and fantastic information, and a lot to kind of digest and give to the kids and even for parents. But what's the best way to encourage your kids to go out and meet or make those new friends? Because I'll be honest with you, I had kids in high school that still are like, I don't want to meet anybody new. And when they did, it's like, oh, I don't like that person. Now they wound up being best friends a lot of the times. But how do you encourage them to do that?
Josh?
So my kids are known as like ushers because they're constantly finding people that need friends. I have trained my children from a youth to make sure that they see people that don't have friends. And I remind them that, hey, there are folks that aren't as outgoing as Winslets. And, not everybody talks to everybody like we do. And I said, and I've told them that, if you want to feel special, so do they. So go out and make somebody special that day. So it's less about them finding somebody for them, but more about them being somebody for somebody else. And that's how I've helped my kids kind of branch out and find people, because they've wanted to help other people.
Fantastic. So what are maybe a couple of tips or a tip on how not for a parent to get upset with children when they just won't listen to you when they're doing their homework? You know what you're talking about, but they don't want to listen to you.
Oh, gosh. I mean, that's one thing I did not do well with my child. We got very frustrated with doing homework because I have a very strong-willed that knows everything except sometimes math. And honestly, I would pull up a YouTube video on that lesson and have them watch a YouTube video on it.
Yep.
Because sometimes I could be saying it and I would even be like the YouTube video going, see, I said that. But they would listen to somebody else rather than listen to a parent, or also reach out to another student and have another student assist, and there's also a homework helpline. St. Clair County has it on their webpage. That's just the last place that I could think of that has it, but there is a homework helpline where parents can call and get help with homework. But a lot of math concepts and things like that are on Khan Academy. And a lot of times if you reach out to the teacher and say, we're having trouble with this concept, they can also give you direct resources for that concept too. But mine was awful with taking directions from me. So I YouTubed a lot of things and a different person would say it, even though it was the same words.
To be clear, if there's a problem between your child and another child, you can't say what disciplinary actions you took.
No.
But can at least you say that you took some type of action? This person's just thinking about their child, knowing that if they had a problem, something is going to be done.
Yes.
I can speak just
Yes.
discipline was all the things, my area.
Yep.
And one of the things that I would always tell parents is, I cannot tell you what happened, but I can tell you that we handled the situation.
Bingo.
Yes, and most of the time we say we followed protocol or we followed the code of conduct, because a lot of things like that are listed in code of conduct, but we cannot say, I will use my kids' names, Emily and Tripp. Emily and Tripp got in a fight, and I'm talking to Emily's mom. I cannot say, well, Tripp got in school detention, and he's already been suspended, and I can't do that. That's breaking the law if I go into detail about what another student is. But I can definitely say is the attention has been situation has been handled. We followed our policies and protocols of our school system, so we can assure you that things have been addressed. If another problem continues, please let us know.
Exactly.
Because in our mind, we do handle it and we might do the correct discipline that's needed, but that doesn't always fix everything. As much as we would love for one thing of discipline to fix a problem, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So just keeping us in the know is very helpful as well. Thanks for that question. That's a great question.
That was a really good one.
We get that a lot of, why can't you tell me what you did to this other child? And same thing, I would not tell another parent what I did with your child.
Or even a lot of the time we get the question, well, can you tell me who the other child was?
Yes.
And that's a big one too.
No, we can't.
Yes, exactly.
Now, the child will tell you, but we
Absolutely.
So the last question, unless something gets dropped in the chat, how much emphasis should you place on grades?
Ooh, that's a loaded one.
That's a big question.
And that's going to vary too, one by grade level and one by school and one by school system, because every school system, there's not a state mandated grading procedure. There's not a state mandated report card. I am a big fan of standards-based report cards. So what that means is the standards that come out from the state, that every kindergartner has to know these things. And then those things are printed on a report card and they get a 1, 2, 3, or 4. 4 means they've mastered it. 1 means we're struggling. 2 means they're progressing okay. And 3 means they're on track. I'm a big fan of that. Not every school system uses that. And a lot of them, like if my second grader came home with an 82 in reading, I'd be like, okay, well, what does that mean? I need to see specifically if my child's having a problem with comprehension, or if it's spelling, if it's vocabulary. There's so many things that go into a reading grade. So I would say the emphasis 1, 2, and also it might be effort. It may be that your child understands it. They just don't want to put the effort in. And we see that with our standardized testing as well. If I don't want to take this test, so I'm just going to, click. So the emphasis, I'm a big parent. I hold my kids accountable for grades. And a lot of times too, I know it's effort, or to let me know, hey, we need extra help with this. We need to find a tutor, or we need something like that. So anytime there is an academic concern on if your child is actually getting the information or able to show the information, please reach out to the teacher. Because report cards are hard to understand sometimes, even the standards-based report cards. And you can also, the course of studies are free to look up on the Alabama State Department website. You can see what your child is supposed to know for every grade level. It's on Alabama course of study, and kind of go from there.
And I think it's also important to just remember, and this is hard for me, and I think for most people, but just to remember that a C is average. And so I think, yes, a lot of the time we harp on wanting our students to be A-B students. Most of your students are going to fall into that BC range naturally. And so more so than focusing on a letter grade or numeric grade, making sure that you know your student and that you know whether or not your student gave their best effort, and whether their best effort is, okay, I'm average, I'm understanding this, I'm just not knocking it out of the park, or, okay, I'm giving my best effort and I need some help. I'm struggling.
Awesome. Jamie, Brittany, Josh, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening away from your families, your little ones, to be with us and share insight into the upcoming school year.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us. And like I said, y'all reach out to us if you need us for anything.
Thank you so much. And a quick reminder, a recording of tonight's webinar will be uploaded onto our website by tomorrow. As an attendee, you'll get an email once the replay link is ready. Before we go, here's a look at a few upcoming webinars. On Wednesday, August 30th, come back for mental health in young athletes, stress, eating disorders, and more. Dr. Dana Watson will take a look at some of the often hidden but very alarming aspects our youth athletes face. On Tuesday, September 19th, we'll welcome members of the UAB Sustainability Program for Strategizing for Sustainability. During this webinar, we'll take a look at what UAB is doing and how you can play your part. On Thursday, September 26th, Dr. Stephen Osted will be here for "Can we starve ourselves to better health and longer life?" Join us as we explore what we've learned on the health impact of food restriction. And on Tuesday, October 10th, explore the possibilities of alumni travel during Collect Travel Night. Jack Brinson will share 4 exciting adventures we have planned for 2024. You can register for these and more at alumni.uab.edu/events. Looking for some late summer fun? Join us for Legacy Family Day, sponsored by Legacy Credit Union on Sunday, August 13th. Bring your kids to the campus green for water slides, animals, snacks, and more. It's only $5 per person. Register at alumni.uab.edu/Legacy Family Day. Finally, let us know how we're doing. Share your thoughts through the QR code on your screen. It'll take you to a very short survey. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for tonight's webinar. And as always, go Blazers.
Go Blazers.